recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles. This is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. We don't know what's going to happen, Alfred, but we're not going to sit around until it does. I'm Anthony.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Katie.
I'm Jim.
I'm Eric.
Welcome to issue number 318 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Every time we record, we talk about comic books. First off, official Happy New Year 2025 to everybody here, as well as everybody listening and watching at home. Here we go. We're going to kick off our first episode of 2025 with club discussions. We're going to talk about the one-shot for Alligator Loki, the holiday special. I think it was renamed to the special instead of spectacular. And then issue 2 of Batman Full Moon. And then we're going to jump into the weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth, talk about the books that we've been reading. They could be new, they could be old, but we're going to talk about them there. So that is the lineup for our show. We're going to jump right into the club discussion. All right, first up is Alligator Loki, the holiday special from 2024. The Alligator of Mischief is back to save the holidays. Join Alligator Loki and his many, many, many friends, from the X-Men to the Young Avengers to several symbiotes, as they romp across the Marvel Universe, sowing chaos and camaraderie in equal stride. Don't miss a brand new story starring Alligator Loki and the real meaning of the holiday season. Family. This issue also collects issues 13 to 24 of the hit Alligator Loki Infinity comic. That is the first time in print. That is from the Marvel Unlimited app. This comic is done by Alyssa Wong, Bob Quinn, and Pete Pentazes. So that is a setup. This is going to be the second time that we are having Alligator Loki in print. This is the second volume of those stories that are originally available through the Marvel Unlimited app. I think we talked about the first round as a club discussion. Usually these kind of animal books are a go-to fun club pick. We'll find out here if this stays true to that. Alligator Loki, this is basically taking a bunch of the originally digitally exclusive stories. They're putting them into print. This one, much like some of the other books too, have been a wordless comic. So the story's being done through the illustrations, and then a bunch of stories. So it's an anthology issue, all surrounding the Marvel Universe, Alligator Loki, and the holiday season. So the best way we can really talk about this is just kind of go around, talk about our thoughts on this, and people maybe calling out some favorite stories and moments. Because there's not one singular story to discuss in here. So let's jump over to Kirby first, if you want to talk about your thoughts on Alligator Loki, the holiday special 2024.
This is lots of fun as usual. No words, but yet it took me longer to read this than Batman. It's like just going through each individual story, just trying to figure out what is all going on. It was well done, easy enough to understand throughout it. The only thing I didn't understand is what his deal is with the non-superhero character that shoots a bow and arrow.
Hawkeye.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was this character's name or if they had a different Hawkeye style name for him or not. But
yeah, that's
yeah. Apparently those two do not get along.
Yeah, they seem to have their little grudge throughout that.
And I like how in the dragon one, I assume that's Devil Dinosaur.
Yeah, I would assume so as well.
The theme says all dragons, but there's a dinosaur in there too. But same thing. But yeah, I couldn't really pick my favorite. I'd say maybe Cookout or Dog Park. But yeah, they're all fun in their own little way. I do like the butterfly one, where the butterflies kind of come back and save Loki a little bit. But yeah, they can keep putting these out. I'll keep picking them up.
Yeah, as I was reading it, there's some of these being like, wait, have I like picked up the wrong issue? Did I read these before? And I must have just caught it at the tail end, if you will, pun intended, um, of the initial run, because some of these I did read through the Marvel Unlimited app, but it felt like it was so long ago that I've had it. But I probably caught, a couple of these early stories because part of me was just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Did they, trick us into buying the same issue again the second year around? But yeah, it is. And then they had the new stories in there as well. So let's jump over to Katie. Thoughts on Alligator Loki Holiday Special?
Yeah, absolutely. Another fun all ages issue. I really liked this a lot. I'm very, very impressed with how meaty it is and like how much detail and density there is to it for a wordless comic. Another fun issue. And I also felt like we're about due for a Jeff the Land Shark wordless comic again. He makes several appearances in here. I love that silly little goofball. I took some screenshots of things that I liked. So in the Home Intruder story, where we have Throg and Alligator Loki having a bit of a standoff with the Roomba, which I thought was really funny. I like how Throg is in his cage and there's a little note that says, "I'm in timeout." And then, it seems like him and Alligator Loki are going to fight each other, but then they have to fight the Roomba together. That was really cool. There was a Valentine's one where main canon line Loki is very upset that he's not getting any Tinder dates. And Alligator Loki like slaps the phone out of his hand and is like, "Arts and crafts." And I'm like, yes, certified asexual crocodile moment. Yeah, arts and crafts over maidens any day. But it was really cute. They made Valentines for all of their friends and for all the people at speed dating, just like when we were in elementary school. I thought that was really sweet. Also, Loki's t-shirt that has a poop emoji with a crown on it is hysterical. That's just ridiculous. What else? The one where Thor and Alligator Loki are going to go to the dog park, and Thor is trying to motivate him to get out the door by like offering him the Mjolnir toy. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. They have a toy Mjolnir. And then just Thor comes in from behind and like grabs him by his leash and picks him up and hauls him out the door. There was another moment in that same comic where it's Alligator Loki and Jeff the Land Shark, and Loki has the Mjolnir again. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. He's gonna share his toy. That's so cute. Nope. Gives Jeff a little bonk on the head. Very Loki-esque. There's a moment in the bath time story where he's just chowing down on a bowl of produce, and I had a second where I'm like, do alligators eat fruits and vegetables? I guess Alligator Loki does. Maybe he is special. That was funny to me. I screenshotted that because, and yeah, he made a heck of a mess just eating fruits and vegetables. I'm like, dang, you put work into that chaos. I respect that.
Were they regular fruit? Because there's golden apple, golden pear.
Yeah, that's true. I was wondering that myself. That's a great point. I thought it was really cute how they covered a whole bunch of holidays. Like, I just kind of thought it was going to be Christmas, because of, the time it was releasing, and Marvel will often say like holiday or like winter holiday. But they covered a whole bunch of holidays, and I thought that was really cool. So there was a cute little moment of the two Lokis building some snowmen together and doing snow angels. And I like how instead of putting a nose with the carrot on the snowman, they turned it into horns and used the carrots to make horns. That was fun. Great issue. I really enjoyed it. Like, Kirby is right in that this took me longer to read than Batman Full Moon because there's so much to see and look at, but really fun. I enjoyed it. I loved all the different cameos and looking forward to the next one. Good all ages comic.
Excellent. Jim, thoughts on this issue?
I did not enjoy it as much because it was wordless, and it is mostly, almost entirely about characters I know absolutely nothing about.
Sure.
So I was completely lost through most of it. I did not know if alligator Loki was actually an alligator, or is he a dragon, or is he something else? Is he Thor's pet? Is he Loki's pet? Because he's back and forth between them. That was confusing, So I didn't know who a lot of the other characters were in some of the stories. So yeah, I did not enjoy trying to figure that stuff out just based on the pictures. The one story that I did particularly like was the last one, Poster Children. And it has a young girl who is the next Wolverine.
X-23, Wolverine's daughter.
Yeah, I don't remember what her real name is, but yeah.
Laura.
Yeah, Laura Kenny.
Yeah,
Kenny.
so that one I did enjoy because I knew who it was supposed to be at least. So it was fun and kind of looked like it was going to be sad, but then they did have a nice family reunion at the end. So yeah, but yeah, the artwork actually I would say was really good. Really, I understood what they were doing with the story. I just didn't understand the characters in the story. So I guess that was where I was lost.
Yeah, that's fair. And to the defense of the characters, like a lot of these kind of books, they kind of suspend any kind of the characters are just basically just people wearing costumes in a sense. Even though they are the characters, there's nothing about them that kind of like what Kirby was talking about with Hawkeye and Alligator Loki. Like from my knowledge, I don't think there's anything that these characters have ever had any kind of feud over. But just for the sake of being like, all right, it'll be funny just to have them have their little beef. But for the most part, there's really nothing for these characters beyond just being background and just kind of being there for holiday parties and such. But so, yeah, but that's understandable too, where you just have a bunch of people you don't know why they're there and what they're doing. But
I've read several of the Marvel pet books, and Alligator Loki was never in them. So
yeah, I'm trying to remember just how much, I don't know in like regular continuity how much the character's been used, but once the character had showed up briefly in the one of the Loki season 1, I think, for the MCU. Um, it was enough to make a plush toy out of and then do the Infinity comics and stuff like that. And it basically like a multiverse version of Loki. I don't know what their continuity reasoning is within the comics, but as far as that goes, it's just like, all right, this is a Loki from another universe, happens to be an alligator. So
you make a good point in that they're treating alligator Loki like a pet, but I'm like, technically, is Loki keeping a version of himself, like a sentient alligator as a pet? I'm like, that's a little weird if I think about it. So we're going to go with the idea that it's just a pet alligator with horns. But yeah, you do make a good point that I did have a couple moments where I'm like, oh, the implications of that are kind of weird, but it's all in fun.
And even in the Loki show itself, and the alligator is basically a Loki.
Yeah.
It's just another version of Loki, just a different form. It's just because it's not human form doesn't mean it's not another world's characters, beings. But yeah, Throg is pretty simple to tell that that's Thor's because it's a frog that carries a Thor hammer. And Loki and alligator Loki both got the Loki horns. So, and
it makes sense that Loki would keep a version of himself as a pet. Like that does seem like a Loki thing to do.
And much like, in the Loki show, it's happened, season 1 was years ago now at this point, basically falling in love with a version of himself from another universe. So
yep.
There is that. So I guess
any one of the Lokis could have been an animal and Loki would have took him in.
That's true, yeah.
But I will.
I also sorry.
Go ahead.
I also want to say, given the actual Norse history of Loki, where he turned into a horse and either fathered or gave birth to another horse with a horse, that alligator Loki might just be a regular Loki who doesn't want to deal with people anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
I'm gonna double down or maybe triple down at this point on the Roomba story being awesome. It was easily my favorite one. It was just a lot of fun of just how most of this book is very colorful and bright, especially with the butterfly story right prior to it. But once you jump into this one and you see just how dark the evilness of the Roomba gets, and they really change the tone and kind of turn it into a little bit of a horror story as you kind of realize what they're facing and realizing that it's just the Roomba. But that one and the one prior to it being the swamp showdown with the butterflies was definitely a lot of fun, and Throg kind of being a little pesky there and maybe getting what he deserved in that story without going further into that. But yeah, I think it ended on a real strong note there. But I think Alyssa Wong here, the illustrations are great, and we complimented that, and the colors are great. Alyssa Wong being the writer, with it being a wordless comic doesn't mean that there wasn't a script, because there's definitely a script in order for them to get all of the stories that we got. So I think it takes extra expertise to write a wordless story. And every time this is kind of brought up, I've probably mentioned it on the show many times before, but it goes back to even the Minions movie, which the writer Brian Lynch, had talked about, like, I think somebody online years ago had talked about, like, it must have been so easy to write a bunch of gibberish, what the minions speak and everything. He goes, actually, it's very difficult to make up an entire language to have everybody universally understand what's going on. Much like we've talked about with Groot stories in the past, when you're, portraying a character that only says, "I am Groot," but it takes such great writing to be able to have what the other characters are saying in reaction to then understand and translate. Be like, oh, this is what he's actually saying. So I always applaud all of the writers that are attached to wordless comics for that extra feat of having that challenge and the hurdle to jump over without actually using words on the page. The only downside is that there's no letterer on the page at all. I think if there's any onomatopoeia and stuff like that, that's probably all done through the artist from looking at the credits there. But the letterers, they got a lot of work going on too, so maybe this is a little holiday break for them too. Any other thoughts, or Eric, any extra thoughts on what we've been talking about? Anybody else, feel free to jump in. All right, I think that is going to do it then. We seem to have a pretty good track record with this, and when we cover the Marvel previews in future catalogs and such, anytime we come across these, there's a good chance that we'll be talking about them. I see there's an advertisement then, now that I turn it around, for Marvel Mutts. I'm sure I probably talked about this because Kamala Khan is on the cover there with Lockjaw and Pizza Dog and everybody. So, but yeah, anyways, that'll do it for the Alligator Loki Holiday Special 2024. Now it's time to change the pace a little bit as we dive into issue 2 of what I believe is the 4-issue miniseries from DC's Black Label. This is Batman Full Moon #2. Caught in a world of magic and myth, Batman must rely on the help of Zatanna and John Constantine if he's to save the city and himself from the curse of the werewolf. So we're still dealing with some animals in this book, at least. But with the full moon approaching, will the ancient magic's Bruce's allies manage to summon be enough to keep the beast away from Gotham's most vulnerable? And can the werewolf's human half find the salvation he so longingly desires? This comic is done by Rodney Barnes, Stevan Subic, and Russ Wooten. All right, we got Jim here. I'm going to kick it off with you. Your thoughts on Batman Full Moon, issue #2.
I did not think we really moved a whole lot forward in this story. We set it up, we got it, and we did a lot of basically investigating. We did learn a little bit more about Potterville or the poor part of town where Christian is hiding out. That was, interesting to see him hiding in a church with a nun and some other down on their luck type characters who know what he is and are trying to protect him and protect the rest of the people, for that matter, and hide him from Batman, because they know that Batman is probably infected. So I'm still kind of like hung up on the way the characters are drawn, though. John Constantine looks way too old. He looks like he's like 60 years, 50, late 50s, early 60s, instead of 30s. Kirk Langstrom looks like a cross between Hugo Strange and Ra's al Ghul, always wearing a cloak instead of like an overcoat.
Yeah.
He's drawn like a villain, so I don't know if that's foreshadowing or whatever. The only one that looks pretty much normal, like the normal characterization, is Zatanna. Even Alfred looks a little odd, to me. He looks very mousy kind of a character, where instead of being a dignified and even heroic looking older man, he looks very mousy looking in this the way he's drawn here. But not that it's a bad drawing, it's just a very different characterizations of all three of them, so, and it's just a little bit, I thought it was a little jarring to me, so, but.
And to your point, I'm having difficulty sometimes trying to find what you're talking about too, so they're not popping out quick when I'm trying to look for reference. But yeah, go ahead.
The Wolfman, the lycanthropes are very well drawn, and it overall is a very dark comic. The artwork is very dark, as fitting to the subject matter, but
Yeah.
Like I said, for as long as this book is, it just didn't advance a story as much as it should have, I thought.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I will say that the ending pages did get me excited for the next one, because it feels like whatever we wanted in this one is going to happen in the next one.
The most action scene we've seen so far is at the end of this book, as an infected Bruce bursts out of the Batmobile.
Yeah, that one. That's an awesome image. I'm gonna save that when we're off recording, just to show that to Eric as well. But I think for the people that are maybe listening to this and maybe on the fence on if they're getting it, I don't want to give that one away. I think it's worth it enough. It's a pretty cool, but yeah, I would agree too. Just not much going on in the issue altogether, but. Next one should be great. Is the next one out by now? Because we are a little behind.
It is.
Okay. So I have not read it yet, but I'm not even sure if I got it in the mail yet. But anyways.
I got a little ahead last time, so I'm holding off so I don't do that.
Jump over to Katie. Thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I like the more cerebral kind of plotting horror. And yeah, next issue, I agree, is going to be very action-packed. Couple of moments that I thought were really cool. So as the book opens and then they're like in hell or like a demonic dimension, I thought the artwork and the style with that was so creepy and so awesome. I second the scenes with the werewolf, look amazing, really cool how they did that monster. I don't think I like John Constantine. And I understand that's the point of his character, is to be kind of off-putting. Because I'm like, how do you manage to be so self-righteous and misanthropic in the same character? And you're like, Katie, that's literally the point. I know, I don't like that. Couple of moments that I thought were cool where Constantine says, I could have shot lower, but I'm working on empathy. That I do identify with, and I agree. He looks really old in here. That seems like a stylistic decision that I gotta be honest, I don't agree with. Maybe they were trying to show more muscles or like more facial expressions, but it just comes off as kind of odd. There was a moment between Bruce and Alfred where um, Batman's talking about converting the deflector system to ultraviolet light, and Alfred's like, "Well, if you were a plant, I would be relieved. That would be great." I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty funny." I like the idea that Alfred's into werewolf and horror movies, and then I really thought that they did a good representation of the nun and like having her be a person of faith. Sometimes comic books don't take that seriously, and while there's certainly room to say like, you know, I guess oh I'm getting off track. I thought they did a good job and handled it respectfully, and they didn't make a joke of it in it of itself. And I there was one moment where she starts praying the Lord's Prayer for like protection against evil, and I'm like, counterpoint, you should probably, if you're praying against evil, invoke like Archangel Michael or like some of the saints. And then, yeah, and like 2 pages later, she gets gagged and eaten by the werewolf. So I was like, see, I was right. You were praying the wrong prayer, but no. Obviously, the Lord's Prayer is pretty well recognized by people across the world, so I do understand why they chose that versus, oh, hey, obscure Catholic lore here. And then there was a moment where Constantine curses and he's like, oh, the world's all gone to shit. And then he's like, oh, shoot, sorry. And then the sister's like, oh, it's okay. I've said far worse. I liked this. I'm looking forward to the next issue. Not an authority at all on any of this, but I thought that there was a lot of positives. And like I said, I enjoy a good kind of like cerebral psychological build up to action versus just jumping right into action. But I enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one and give it a shot.
Cool. Kirby?
I love the storyline. I like where it's going with it. I still hate the artwork. It's all right. I wish they would have done the team up like they do with some comics where you'll have an artist that does all the main art and then you have an artist that does the dark art.
That's true.
I like this artwork when they do the werewolf scenes and stuff. Everything else, I couldn't tell you who a single character is, even though I'm on issue 2, except for Constantine when he has a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, these characters look nothing like their original characters. The side characters, I get them confused constantly, except for the big bald headed guy and the lady that works for the church. But it's just, yeah, I don't know who those people are or anything. I can't comprehend it. Alfred doesn't stand out to me at all as a Alfred character. The storyline I like, but I love how they're doing Zatanna, Constantine, Langstrom all helping Batman out, trying to get things going. Zatanna trying to rip the demon from the soul, and the problem she has with all that and stuff, and Langstrom having problems with serum and things. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next issue because everybody's wolfing out, and we're gonna see what's up with the puppy dogs. But yeah, other than that, I just can't. If we weren't doing this as a club pick, I would have jumped off after issue 1 because of the artwork. But glow in the dark covers, I guess, are keeping me in.
Fair enough. Yeah, I had some of my thoughts earlier, so I don't have much to say other than that I'm excited for the next one because of the imagery of how this one ended. So, yep. Any other closing thoughts for anybody?
I agree with Jim that the editing could have been a little bit tighter in places. There were some panels where I'm like, this is just filling space, which in a traditional like paper book, I get it. I'm reading the digital issues, so to me it's a little bit like you didn't need this. But I think Jim's onto something where there were just 1 or 2 dead moments that we didn't need to have. But yeah, we'll see how the next one plays out.
There we go. So yeah, that is going to do it then for Batman Full Moon issue number 2. and to remind everybody of upcoming issues we'll be talking about as a club. We'll be finishing up Marvel Zombies Dawn of Decay with issue number 4. We've got Minor Arcana number 3, more Batman Full Moon. We have the one-shots for What If Minnie Mouse became Captain Marvel, What If Mickey and Friends became the Fantastic Four. There's Doctor Doom and Rocket Raccoon, so there's a couple one-shots coming up there as well from Marvel, and I think that is the updated list. And that will do it for the club discussion. Let's jump over to the weekly reviews. Welcome to the weekly reviews. I just noticed the shadow from my webcam on my forehead during the episode, so I'm going to move that over here. I'm talking about Space Circus. Space Circus, a hardcover collection that was recently released last month, I believe. Once upon a time, kids used to dream of running away to join the circus and travel the world, but now that's out of date. Young Todd Cooper has a new dream. Run away and join the Doodah Brothers Astral Traveling Entertainment and Fun Brigade, traveling from planet to planet with its incredible cast of Greebles, Flurps, bearded plankton, and clone clowns, and avoiding the deadly sky pirates. This collects Space Circus comics number 1 through 4, and my notes here just went out of whack, so let me get back in order here. So here we are. This is done by Sergio Aragonis, Mark Evanier, Stan Sakai, and Tom Luth. All right, this was a series that had come out prior. I actually don't know the date of the original series, but this collection here is the first time I heard about it. While I'm very familiar with Sergio and his work with, Mad Magazine and Gru, I was never a reader of those in a, dedicated level. And the subject matter of Gru was something that's just not my kind of genre that I dive into. But when I saw Space Circus and read the description and saw this cool book and then saw that Sergio was attached to it, I was intrigued. So I bought this blindly out of the excitement of what this could be. I read this morning. This is amazing. I absolutely loved it. There's so much to look at in this book. Sergio Aragonis is obviously a master cartoonist, and I was just so happy to devour this book. And what I love about this, and I'm sure with a lot of his other cartooning work, is that there's a lot of what I can just describe as like Where's Waldo type moments where there's so much to look at. There's a couple of these double splash pages. I just want to get to some of this in here for the example for our YouTube audience. If you're an audio listener, you can subscribe to us on Crimson Cowl Comic Club on YouTube. Here's an example of a double splash page when you just get a big environment of what's going on, and when you're inside of like a spaceship, or you're in a city, you're in a town, you're in a coliseum, wherever the heck you are. There is so much to look, and not only just with these big splash pages, but also even with the individual panels. There's so much detail and background and characters. Like gets a lot of replay value, I think, with going back and rereading this and just poring over the art. There's just so much to look at, and we get a lot of that just once again, just as an example of even in the single panels and stuff too, that they're just, I would say, crowded, but in an entertaining way. Like his panels are very crowded, so much action, so much goofy alien designs, a lot of great comedy. This is a story about a kid named Todd who is at the arcade, and I think he's staying by his aunt, because he does reference his parents, but I think he might be staying by his aunt's overnight, and he's in trouble because he wants to stay at the arcade, but his aunt's calling the arcade, just saying, yeah, can you tell young Todd Cooper to come home? So there is a funny little moment right in the very beginning that you get the idea that the guy who runs the arcade here probably gets a lot of these phone calls from parents and guardians of them saying like, "Hey, tell my boy or girl to come home," and so the guy on the phone, he just yells, "Todd Cooper, paging Todd Cooper. Your Aunt Emma says your meatloaf is getting cold," and then so yeah, he basically has to shout out to let the kids know, like, all right, you got to run home and time for dinner. But when Todd goes home, he happens to stumble upon something. He has a little kind of some troubles with his aunt and being in trouble and stuff like that, which causes him to grab his skateboard. This is all within the first couple pages, and he runs into a giant spaceship that basically takes a little detour onto Earth, and this is our circus. This is our space circus that is run by these conjoined brothers, and they're just hilarious because they're constantly arguing on who's talking, who's gonna use the heart or who's gonna use the brain or who's gonna, there's just a lot of comedy with them being conjoined, and basically the space circus is on the run. There's a bunch of space pirates that are basically out there attacking. There's just a lot of moving parts and groups that are going on, and it's great to just see all of these, so many characters that you're learning here, and they all are just kind of clashing, and it's very fun to see how that all happens. But eventually, Todd, and I feel this is still part of the setup without spoiling anything. The whole story just kind of surrounds that Todd is now being taken in by the circus folk here, and is kind of just out on the run as they're being chased by pirates and looters, and the main captain of the space pirate ship, he has his own reasons for why he doesn't like the circus, so that's part of the story that I'll leave for anybody that is interested. I'm trying to look for some of the pirate imagery here with with the captain, so we can see what a space pirate looks like. Very much an astronaut, Captain Crunch kind of guy here, and this was a blast. This was, I think, about 100 pages. There's some good stuff in the back too, which has one-page comics with these characters. I don't know where they were, how these were released originally with the individual issues or not, but they are something called Space Circuits, as in like circuitry, but just a funny little gig just to kind of show you what they do with this stuff. You see a clown here on, someone who's very clearly in a two-person horse costume, and you see them kind of going around and pleasing the crowd and having a lot of fun. But by the end of it, you see that the clown was actually a two-person clown costume, and the horse is just a one-person or just a horse. But so that was just a funny little gag there, just to kind of give you an example of the kind of humor. Very much like all of this stuff, very much still feels very newspaper comic strip jokey, even though it's done in 4 issues across 100 pages. I think all of the humor of this is very well done, panel by panel. So much to devour. This was an awesome collection, recently released through Dark Horse. It's got a $30 price tag on the hardcover here at regular retail. This was a blast. I went into this series knowing that I wasn't really much of a Gru the Wanderer fan, even though I haven't dove into it beyond any free comic book day stuff, but ultimately it just wasn't my kind of genre. After reading this, I'm going to check out some Gru proper because I want some more Sergio. So Space Circus, I cannot talk about this enough. This was fun. All right, Kirby.
Yep, I like that series too. I think I reviewed issue 1 a really long time ago on this show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really fun with all the different creatures and characters that they came up with. And yeah, just picked up a bunch of Gru comics at a claim sale recently.
Oh, really? Cool.
I've been stocking up on those and some Jeff Smith stuff also. So
it's a lot of great cartoonists to devour there. So
yep. All right, I got Creepshow Holiday Special #1. This is 2024 issue. First story is Odd Lang Syne. It's by Tina and Blake Howard were the writers. Steven Subic was the artist. Letterer Pat Brasseau. It's imagery here. But basically, a group of people are searching for something special from the past, and they do something unthinkable to gain powers of gods and kings. And because of it, they end up getting what they want, but yet not getting what they want, thinking that they're all going to gain certain powers, and yet maybe 1, 2, or 3 only gain something, or they all get spited in the end, or whatever happens. A lot of these horror stories. Uh, and then the other story is called Late Night Harry Reno. Writer is Rob Williams, artist Pi Par, and letterer Pat Brasseau. Basically, you get a late night character, a late night talk show host. This guy here, he's older, and he's putting on a holiday show, and he's kind of a very rude older gentleman that was kind of really rude in his early days. I felt more like it was has the talk show on radio, Howard Stern style character than a late night talk show host type character. But he used to have a puppet back in the early days that was really obscene and would just go off on everybody, and then he'd correct the puppet and stuff. But this one gives you kind of a little switch with the puppet and the character himself, and some payback in the end. But yeah, these are fun, as the Creepshow short horror stories are. And yeah, I can't ruin too much of what's going on with them, but they're easy enough to figure out in the end what's going to happen. You can guess throughout the story. As usual, they play out the old horror storylines. But yeah, Creepshow's been doing an awesome job with it, and now we finally got Shudder, so I can check out the series and see if it's following the comics or a little bit different. And then we got Volume 4 coming up, I think.
There we go. I think you had mentioned the same artist that was on Batman Full Moon, the Steven or Stevan.
Subic.
So what'd you think on the art presented in that first story, just based on seeing the Batman characters, but now seeing him play with, these characters?
Yeah, this has that same style artwork, as you can see, with the painted style, and the people would have been confusing in this story, but I didn't mind it because I didn't know any of the characters.
Yeah.
So I could follow them all. Like the head guys wearing the horns and stuff, and then all the other people were very minute, basically giving their gifts, and then everybody does their thing and stuff, and they start disappearing. But yeah, the main characters are easy enough to follow because I didn't know who they were, so I could go off the image that I only knew, so it wasn't confusing that way to me. But I know I'm picky about with my MS brain. I can't connect with it. It just confuses me too much if I know the actual characters. So yeah, that was a good thing to represent. I didn't mind it in here, but I also still ain't really thrilled with that style. People look goofy.
Now,
heads look like they're beat up before they even have anything happen?
Now, what if Stevan or Steven drew a Goofy book for Disney? He said it looks goofy, so maybe what if he actually drew Goofy?
Hey, might be able to pull that off. No,
I'm glad Eric was here for this one. Let's move on to the next book. This one I'm very excited to hear the review on. Katie, what you got for us?
All right. So I have Happy Astronaut #1. This is from Keen Spot Comics. It's done by Matt Fife and Matt Rogers. The Matts are friends of our show. They've been on a few times, and you can also catch them on our sister podcast, Cartoonist by Night, hosted by Anthony Laatsch, where they talk and draw comics and cartoons on their current projects, and they've been going strong now for almost 2 years, right?
Yeah, we'll be coming up on our celebrating the 2nd anniversary in about a month or two.
All right. Very cool. Gosh, time flies. All right, this book is about Happy. Happy used to work at El Crapo Stink Factory, so his job literally stunk until he was sick and tired of it and decided to become an astronaut. And now he is Happy Astronaut. So in this comic, we have Happy and his robot buddy Half going on some goofy adventures through outer space, visiting alien planets. They're looking for Half's missing neurosynaptic transducer array. We love a good sci-fi, gadget. And so they go to the first planet has some kind of giant alien octopus monsters that are trying to eat half. There's a good moment in here where he says, "Upload complete. Disappointment engaged," and he does look quite disappointed. They get beamed back to the ship because it's the wrong planet, and also Happy missed half. He was only gone for a few minutes, but Happy was getting kind of lonely. So maybe it's like an Interstellar where, they're on that one water planet where it's 45 minutes in planet time, but 24 years on spaceship time. Then they're looking for a map to the next planet. And, the boys are busting on each other. They're razzing each other throughout this whole book. And Half says, "Oh, here, let me show you." And then he opens up a little robot door on his body and pulls out this hand-drawn papered map. I thought that was really funny because, we're dealing with like high tech, like spaceships and stuff. And then, "Oh, here, I drew this on a little map for you. And it's under the circle." I thought that was goofy. I liked that a lot. And then they go to another planet that is populated by a race of aliens called the Black Hole Starlings. So these are aliens that look just like the stars that we all drew in elementary school. And they are basically like space leeches that are always trying to get batteries to fuel them. So they zap the batteries in Happy's little gadgets and devices. So he's stuck on this planet. It's not looking good. He finds a scooter so he can make a quick getaway. And then he ends up getting led and kind of trapped in this cave where it honestly seems kind of like where they keep prisoners, and it's not looking too good for Happy. But then he finds a strange river of energy that's flowing upward and finds out that he's not the only person trapped here, that space's greatest wrestler, the Universal Wrestling Champion of the universe, Super the Star Wizard, is also trapped here. And he is really happy to see Happy. That is the end of issue. Oh, nope, wait. If we look on the back cover, what's this? We have fan letters from Anthony Laatsch and Kirby Kleinhans.
Whoa.
So definitely really fun issue. I'm so glad to be able to support our friends. Very colorful. It's goofy. It's funny. I see no reason why this couldn't be an all ages comic. The only thing would be if you don't like El Crapo, but I don't really think that's a big issue. Fun all ages comic, great cartoon. It's like a mix of the Jetsons and Mystery Science Theater 3000. Looking forward to reading issue 2, and so glad to see 2 of our club members and friends included in this book. Check it out. You can get it from KeenSpotShop.com or reach out to either of the Matts and they can hook you up.
That was awesome. I'll let them know that they are getting much praise here from Katie on that awesome review. It doesn't spoil the story, but as an advertisement for Happy Astronaut number 2, feels good I get to say this again, but I have a pinup in the back there, so that is that might be worth the money. And then within issue number 2, you also see some debuts of some characters that went off to get their own comic books. So I'll just leave it at that. Issue number 2 has become a hot commodity as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that was cool to talk about Happy again. This arc went through 5 issues, and we'll have to stay tuned to see if we see some more. So cool. All right, let's jump over to our next review, and that will be Jim. What you got?
I have Justice League Unlimited number 1, All In. This is part of the new line of titles called under the All In banner from DC. And I was curious after reading the Absolute Power storyline special editions to see where they were going to go with the All In stuff. I was not totally thrilled with the Batman All In, or so it just seems like it's odd compared to for an ongoing title anyway. But this one seems to be all right. And when they're talking Justice League Unlimited, they literally are. They have decided that they are going to bring the Justice League back, which has been not a thing for probably at least 3 years, I'm thinking. I can't remember exactly when it went away, but there has not been a Justice League in universe for that time. And the Teen Titans, or the Titans, have been the premier team. Now, Justice League Unlimited is open, and they have made every superhero in the world a member of the Justice League. And it shows right away from the beginning. One of the new characters we met at the end of the Absolute Power storyline, Airwave, is beamed on to the new Watchtower, and there is chaos going on immediately. You see the loudspeaker announcements on the screen, these people are being sent to this place, and Aquaman, gather your team to go here, and Superman, you could report here, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, he's just like, hey, is anybody around to, and everybody's ignoring him. All of a sudden, Flash comes by, hey, I'm Flash. And he's like, he grabs him and he gives him the whirlwind tour of the satellite, and the young boy is almost sick from the speed and everything. And they stop, and it's like, all of a sudden, they're introduce them to the person making the announcements, and the person making the announcements is the Red Tornado, who, whether, I don't know if anybody else knows this, but Red Tornado is an android. And then Red Tornado lost their body. So they input the Red Tornado's intelligence into managing the Watchtower. So the Red Tornado is running everything through the satellite, and calling for the teams and all that. So that was it. And I thought that was interesting, because normally a lot of times they've seen either Batman or his AI brother I has done it, or John Jones has run the operations for the Justice League from the Watchtower. So this is different to have somebody else in charge, and somebody who was running it as an AI. But yeah, so he's sent there, and then we see all these teams going out to deal with all these different things. We meet a new group of villains called, and I'm blanking on that name now, give me a sec, I'll come back to that. But they're all going through their, we do see the, here it is, Inferno is the name of the group, and they are setting themselves up against the entire Justice League, which basically is all the superheroes, and said that they will be the servants for this new group in Inferno. So yeah, it's a pretty braggadocious claim. But other than the fact that we've got all these superheroes working together to stop things all over the world, I think it was interesting for two things. We saw one of my favorite characters from the Green Lanterns that we don't see very often, or at least I haven't seen very is Star Amethyst, and that is Carol Ferris, who was Hal Jordan's girlfriend, who basically became Star Sapphire, which is one of basically the purple version of the Green Lanterns, the Star Sapphires. And that is using the emotional spectrum that represents love. So it was good to see her and her powers in action in this story. And we get to see more about what this new character Airwave is about and how his powers work. They come across a disaster in South Africa, and there is a character who is a victim who is looking for his wife, and the people on the scene finally realize what he's saying is a name and that he's married, so they need to reach out. So they get some ID, and Airwave goes, I can help. His power is he can turn himself into electromagnetic communication. So he is transported to the site, turns himself into communication, and beams it out to every cell phone in the region calling for this man's wife. And then she is brought to the site, and then Star Sapphire, using her power of love, is able to unite the two of them and save his life. So it was a really neat moment of, seeing the new hero and a underused hero, get their spotlight moment. So I don't know that I'll necessarily continue with this. I might read the first arc because I haven't been reading regular run titles for a while and been holding out for the special edition kind of things. But yeah, it was nice to see what they decided to do with Justice League again. So I wanted to go back and touch on the creative team, and it is written by Mark Waid with, let's see, there we go. Mark Waid, Dan Mora is the artist, Tamara Bonavilan colors, and Ariana Mar letters.
Cool. All right, we're gonna jump over to Eric. What you got?
I have Feral #8 from Image Comics, written by Tony Fleeks, art by Trish Forstner and Tone Rodriguez, same creative team that gave us Stray Dogs. I did the first one where it introduced 3 cats, Elsie, Lord Fluffy Britches, and Patch. At this point, it was determined that disease, very similar to rabies, has, well, for lack of a better term, gone viral. The CDC has been sent out with kill on sight orders for any animal that they encounter. And where the last issue left off, Patch unfortunately turned. So basically like one of the rage zombie kitties. Sad. And Elsie trying to find refuge and passes out in front of a bunch of cats. In this one, we see that she wakes up. She wakes up and is greeted by a strange cat. Doesn't exactly know what's going on. She's very paranoid because, she's basically run from, the cats of the living dead. Poor kitties. She finds that her friend Lord Fluffy Britches is there, but they just call him Lord. It's shorter. And she basically is taking a tour on this house, found out that there's a lady who keeps them. They're always saying, the lady keeps us, the lady feeds us, kind of like a cult thing. But then if you're a cat, what more do you need than to be fed and a clean place to poop? Of course, in this house, apparently everywhere's the litter box. So we see it's a great crazy cat lady. And the whole time, poor Elsie, she's just like, something's wrong. This doesn't seem right. So she tries to find a place for herself because all the other cats have taken a place. And she finds out that there's a cat that took her place but never really left it. So this insane cat lady, who she not only shuns any type of hygiene for the kitties, but apparently any type of cleanliness too. So poor kitties, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And no matter how much Elsie tries to talk to the other cats, they just tell her, the lady keeps us. As long as you can feed a cat, they'll be your friend, right? So as it goes on, she finds out that there's a room where cats are put on discipline. And she doesn't like that because she doesn't want to go in there too. So she tries to find out what happens to the bad cats. And we see room full of cats and what even looks like a dog here. All infected. So what's going on in this house during this whole outbreak that's trying to be contained? Not sure. how she even gets a hold of the cats without getting infected herself, because it was already determined in previous issues that humans can be infected by it. So I don't know. This is a pretty good cliffhanger. Like this has been a really good series so far. And another reason I wanted to bring this issue out, because at the end of each issue, fans, they get to submit pictures of their kitties, and I got my little bonsai and kitty. They are immortalized.
Awesome.
So if I ever get a chance to meet Tony Fleeks, this is the issue that I will definitely have him sign. So yeah, I've been really happy with the series so far. I don't know how much longer it's going to go. I'd like to see it keep going. But so yeah, there's Feral number 8.
Very cool. And then if you get some ink pads, you can probably have your cat sign it too with their paws, and whatever is a safe and healthy way to do that. But
you want to get a hold of my cat's paws, you're gonna lose a finger. So
fair enough. All right. We're going to jump into the next round here. I have a book called Wait a Minotaur. It's Nick's first day at a new school. As he walks in, he meets an easily excitable and an impatient Minotaur named Gus. It's Gus's first day, too, so he grabs Nick's hand and charges straight into the building. There's so much to see and do. They dance along with band practice, bounce around the school gym, and end up in the boiler room, and, okay, they're lost. They may not know where to go, but they know what to do. Wait a minute, calm down, and retrace their steps so they can find their classroom. Young comics readers are sure to resonate with the comics illustrator Jeffrey Ebeler's hilarious slapstick take on a common coming-of-age experience, and parents will love the subtle lessons of patience and critical thinking. This, I guess, mini graphic novel, if you will, is done by Jeffrey Ebeler. This is a young reader book here. It's not too big here, but I think it's great for the audience, and it needs to be. I remember seeing this in the preview, and I like the Wait a Minotaur title to it. That was enough for me. Like, all right, this looks adorable. Right away in the opening, you get a map of the school, basically, this whole book takes place basically on a rampage of them running through this elementary school, trying not to be late for class. But yeah, very quick into the story. It doesn't take too long before the Minotaur and our lead kid here is Gus and what was it? Nick? I think Nick and Gus. Yep. Before they basically decide to take on this adventure together to try to get to class without being late. There's a lot of hijinks of them going through the science lab, and you see, beakers and chemicals being shot up in the air. I'll let the readers figure out what happens on the next page. They go through the music room. They go to the gym, and they get into middle of a game that's being played here, so it's just entertaining, basically, to see how fast-paced this book goes, which I think works with the idea of the Minotaur leading a charge. It works with the size of the book and just how kind of quick-paced it is. I think it was a perfect size to fit that rhythm that they were going for there. There's definitely some good comedy in here as they kind of run across all of these different characters, running through the cafeteria and the boiler room and everything I mentioned in the synopsis. This book is real adorable. I highly recommend it. I always like just picking up these kind of books for, working, thinking about, making comics for young readers and all ages books and stuff like that. That's a lot of the stuff that I really, really enjoy reading. And whether or not I am the target audience, I find, this highly enjoyable and a book that I would definitely pass along to some friends, kids, and stuff like that. So this was a lot of fun. Loved the title. I was in for that. Enjoyed the book as well. Wait a Minotaur by Jeffrey Ebeler. All right, that's that. Kirby?
I got Scary Christmas versus Killer Claus.
Ooh.
Number 1. This is volume 1, number 1, so they must have plans for some future ones. The 2024 issue. First story is called Holiday Hacker. writers Gio Parsons and Evie Cantata. These are black and white images and basic, simple artwork. But basically, someone is on the naughty list, and it just might be someone you least expect while on a holiday getaway. And basically, a couple goes up to a shack and they're celebrating Christmas together, trying to enjoy things. And he goes outside to chop some wood so they can get the fireplace going. And yeah, I can't really show that. That would ruin everything, the ending of it. But yeah, he goes outside to chop some wood, and a news thing comes up and just starts talking about possible serial killer, and you can imagine what happens in the end of that. And the other one is Oh No Christmas Tree. This is by writer James Kahoric and artist Luis Calzada. And this one, our main character goes out into the woods, into an area that has signs, "Do not touch my trees," cuts down the trees, and basically, if you're willing to trespass and take something that is not yours, you got to deal with the consequences. And yeah, it's only about a 5-pager, so I don't want to ruin that. But you can imagine what happens by taking something from someone else for the holidays, and you'll get your payback in the long run. And then Straw Claus is the last story. Writer is Todd Livingston and artist Fernando Souza. And in this story, basically, if Santa is busy one day, a year off doing his job, giving the gifts to little girls and boys, a couple thieves are going to break into the North Pole and steal what they can, which doesn't really make sense because you're going to have a bunch of elves there. You're going to have Mrs. Claus there and who knows what else. But yeah, they break in thinking Santa's gone. They can do whatever they want. And they find the place pretty much empty until they come across some characters inside the main house of the North Pole. And all kinds of wonderful things happen to the thieves in the long run. But yeah, these are fun, scary Christmas stories. Well done. I like the black and white, simple artwork. But yeah, check those out if you want some more. I think I'm caught up on my holiday horror now. And now we can move on to Valentine's Day or the next holiday.
Yeah, I've got a couple holiday horror stuff sitting on my to read pile, and I got to get it while there's still snow on the ground in January. I got to get these read, so I'm still in the mood, you know.
Yeah.
All right, I think we just have one more weekly review left. So Eric, bring it home. What you got?
All right. I have another book by James Tinian, who is frequently mentioned on this podcast, The City Beneath Her Feet, put out by Distillery. So of course it's in the large format, which won't fit in the long boxes. It starts out with a parallel story. We get introduced to Jasper, who is talking to her friend Liz about she's 20 minutes late for wherever she's got to be, but she just needs to stop for a hot dog. Find out that despite her dress, she's going to a black tie event, and then she's excited because there's shrimp. So, interesting lady. We don't exactly know what's going on with her yet. Then we're also introduced to Zara, who, as she's talking to one of her friends, you find out she's a writer who's in trouble because she can't write a book, and she's worried that she's going to have to give back the advance that her publisher had already paid her. So we get introduced to both characters that way. We also find out that Liz, who Jasper has been talking to, is this lady with gray hair dressed in odd shibari over a black gown. We soon find out that that Jasper's job is not necessarily to hobnob with snobs, but to start going on a wonderfully colorful killing spree using odd little shurikens. And she looks so happy doing it, too. So we find out that, yeah, she was on her job. Her friend Liz, who apparently uses a kurusigama, and it looks like the kurusigama is actually attached to the rope that is shibaried around her. So that might explain how she ended up getting some of the scars that you see all over her. I don't want to do rope work with blades, no. So you find out Liz and Jasper, they fulfill their contract, but not without Jasper getting shot. She ends up running into Zara in the subway, where Jasper takes Zara to her place, which is apparently a palatial penthouse full of books. She sees all sorts of just extravagant wines, and Jasper's like, yeah, go ahead, open one. So while Jasper's stitching herself up, they talk, they bond, end up spending the night. I can't show a lot of these pages for reasons that I'll let you come to your own conclusions. But in the morning, Liz shows up, tells Zara, go away, you're never going to see her again. And he thought, well, that sucks. But then Zara gets home and she finds Jasper waiting for her. And from then on, we find that Zara she keeps existing, trying to work on the book, and every now and then Jasper pops into her life unexpectedly. Jasper's also surprised to find out that Zara has written the book The Girl in the Leopard Print Jacket, which is heavily based on Zara meeting Jasper. So they have this relationship, which is, very inconsistent. She doesn't know how much time until the next time she sees her. But then it comes to the time where she finally finds out that she's not going to see her again because Jasper has been killed in a job. The reason she finds this out is because Jasper left her everything. And in a telling by Zara, we find out that this isn't the story that we're going to be following. It's just the prequel that what led to the story. So after, being shown this good story, great artwork, and we get to see these characters interact with each other, everything that's going to go on happens after that. So if you've ever read any of James Tynion's book, ongoing series, you know that he leaves a good cliffhanger. And this one is very good. I'm really hoping that the next issue comes out soon, because I've been waiting over a month to see where this goes, what happens. Is Zara going to run from people? Is Zara just in trouble with debtors? Who knows? But, again, this is another good book from James Tynion. I'm hooked. So yeah, that's the start of City Beneath Her Feet.
Cool. All right. And that is going to do it for the weekly reviews, and that's going to do it for this episode. We're going to jump right into some plugs. We have something new to talk about here coming up. Saturday, February 22nd, 2025, from 10 to 5. We have Milwaukee Comic-Con through MC Conventions. I think formerly, identifying as MightyCon, but now they have the MC Conventions on there. Milwaukee Comic-Con, Crimson Cowl Media will be there. Myself and David Cloyd will be promoting and selling our comic books. We'll have, the self-published comic books, the art, the prints, and a bunch of other goodies and stuff like that. I am nearing the end of another issue of Race Christopher, but due to shipping times and everything, it'll be kind of a race to the finish to see if I can get it in time for the convention. December was a little rougher to get through and get stuff drawn. But January, I just been drawing the heck out of the book, so we'll see if it happens. Otherwise, it'll be available at future shows as well as online shipments and in person. But yeah, come out to Milwaukee Comic Con Saturday, February 22nd, to see David and I at the next convention stop and the first one for 2025. Then go to crimsoncowl.com for info on original webcomics. David had recently just released part 2, so now the full story of his 100% free webcomic for Gravesweeper tells the spooky tales, but that's Dead Man Tells the Spooky Tales, which I got to talk about later. Gravesweeper's Spooky Stories is the one. A character that I co-created with David that I play in some of the short films that he has done through his Doc Oster character. Go on crimsoncowl.com for the information and links to see some of that stuff. But the comic is up. It was a spooky story that started at Halloween with part 1. Part 2, he had finished drawing, and it's mostly done through David. He had some art assist for some of the panels from his son, David Gloyd II, but it is mostly a David Gloyd project. And so, yeah, you can read all of that for free. It's an excellent story. I was excited to read that, regardless of if my character I played is the narrator or not. It's really fun. It's I would say it's appropriate for most ages, is how David advertised it. But anytime you come across that, if you're an adult and you got some children, give it a look first. But appropriate for most ages on that. So yeah, crimsoncowl.com for those original webcomics, plus a bunch more dealing with the Tales from the North that he has. I do have a 5-page preview of the next Rice Christopher on that website. I also have the 1-page Rice Christopher Christmas story that I released on Christmas Eve on my social media, but you can also read it on crimsoncowl.com. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff, a lot of free original comics that David and I have been working on. David, and yeah, 2 Davids and 1 Anthony. Then jump over to Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes. The audio version, you can rate, review, subscribe. If you want the full video version, go to us on YouTube, Crimson Cowl Comic Club. Kirby has a spin-off podcast called Under the Cowl of MS. You want to talk about what's been going on over there?
I am trying to put out single comic book reviews, hopefully almost every day this year, that are under 3 minutes. Trying to figure out the YouTube shorts thing, and it's not collecting them when I click on the shorts. But we also got the Thursday Under the Cowl of MS Random Talk Show, and hopefully the week after you see this, the weekend after you see this on Sunday, I should have my reading comics with coffee episodes coming back up. Just been hard to get them out. And then we got unpackings and random stuff. You can look in my channel playlist now and look up live show and shows of friends, and that'll have anything that I pop up on live on YouTube in there. Then I also have, of course, a Crimson Cowl Comic Club file in there also. But yeah, having fun with it. So check out what we got.
Excellent. So yeah, subscribe and follow Under the Cowl of MS wherever you get your podcasts and social media and YouTube, all of that fun stuff. I have some art accounts on Facebook and Instagram. Anthony Laatsch, Laatsch. I am part of Cartoonist by Night. We all hang out and draw, and we had 2 awesome holiday specials. The Hollandaise special and the Prawn Nog special, where we invited our past guests that we had in 2024. We had, I think, up to like 8 or 9 people in an episode. If you haven't seen David in a while, he did join us for those 2 episodes, as well as his own episode talking and drawing Superman prior to that. So David had a record of 3 straight weeks of being a guest on Cartoonist by Night. But yeah, checked it out. We had an awesome end to the year, and at the time of this recording, we just finished recording an episode with Tracina Bowling. She is an awesome artist that we had on, and we talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again. We talked about them early on in the show, but that is a 40-year franchise that we'll never get talking about. So we do another visit of hanging out, drawing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, as well as learning about Tressa's work in, as I mentioned earlier, Dead Man Tells the Spooky Tale. She's one of the artists that Franco wrangled up here, and I've been going through and trying to get some of these artists on the show. I've got a couple already. This is an awesome book. I keep talking about this, but so yeah, you can learn more about how she got into this DC story and how she got into drawing for Oh Yeah Comics. It is an origin story that if we gave you 100 guesses, you would never guess how what got Franco's attention to get her to working with Oh Yeah Comics and eventually into Dead Man. It was a great reveal because I had no clue how she got into that world, and it's definitely a fun little origin story. So yeah, that is an episode that is recorded, and it'll probably be out by the time you're hearing this. But just subscribe to Cartoonist by Night on YouTube so you never miss an episode. That's going to do it for this show. This whole time, I've been charging with a Minotaur.
I've been spending Scary Christmas with werewolves and a little itty bitty gator.
I've been the wrestling champion of the universe.
Comics and coffee sounds like a shop I want to hang out at.
Eric, your audio, please. We'll put a voiceover in for him. We'll get there.
There you go. I've been wondering who needs a hot dog while making a beeline for the shrimp table.
To be continued.